headquarters of common sense.
Talk Radio.
It's interesting that this announcement has been made. We know that there's going to be more emphasis on nuclear power as part of the whatever this energy strategy is. We know there's battles going on between Rishi Sunak and the cost of this and the Chancellor and the Treasury, and battles with Number 10. But you are chair of the Together Against Sizewell C campaign. Why do you oppose building nuclear power reactor when we have such a shortage of energy in this country?
Well, if you want to wait 15 years to get the energy from a nuclear power station when we're facing a climate crisis which needs urgent action, good luck to you. There's far cheaper ways and far more prompt ways of getting to net zero and getting ourselves weaned off the Russian gas situation this has been prompted by in terms of the Ukrainian war, than going nuclear. Johnson apparently is after 15 gigawatts, even 24 gigawatts of nuclear power. That's not going to come on stream for a long, long time.
But that's one of the problems with any power station, whatever it is, and even if
it's not at all. It's far quicker if you go renewables. You can put them up in a year or two.
Right, OK. One of the problems that we've got, and we saw this in September very vividly, was when the wind doesn't blow, you can't rely on wind power, and the sun doesn't always shine. I'm looking out my window right now of that beautiful, glorious week last week at the fog over the River Thames. The reality is, as much as I'd love us to get to being all reliant on renewables are not reliable. And until they are reliable all the time, we can't rely on them. So we're going to rely on, gas-powered power stations, fracking, nuclear, and other forms of energy. You surely accept that. We can't move to all renewables right now.
You're falling into the same trap that the government falls into. You're looking at supply all the time. What we've got to look at is demand. We've got to drive down demand. There are millions of acres of roofs in this country, and not one of them has got a photovoltaic cell on it by statute. We do not do anything mandatory. We do it by volunteering, and we could do far more.
You're saying mandatory, so mandatory solar panels would be your answer to the problem.
Well, if you're going to build a housing estate, it makes a lot of sense to put photovoltaic cells on the roof.
And it probably does make sense in a brand new housing estate, but most people don't live in new homes. They live in homes that were built, decades and decades.
Then retrofit them with thermal insulation.
Here's the thing. What we have a situation right now, one of the biggest issues with renewables is we don't have the battery storage ability. Not just we haven't got them, we haven't got the ability yet to store energy from wind and solar power, or even wave power, for a long period of time.
We're going on leaps and bounds.
No, we are going on leaps and bounds. But I've interviewed a lot of people, a lot of experts in this field who say we are looking at, probably at least a decade plus away before we can get to that. So
it's a decade plus before we can get any nuclear power on the stream.
Yes, but
I bet you something. I bet we get to storage far before we get to.
I bet you we don't.
Any nuclear electricity.
Well, no, because of the planning rules. Who are we kidding? It won't happen that quickly anyway because of the nuclear power. But this is the thing: we're not going. Even if we had a solar power on every single roof of this country, we are not going to have reliable, consistent energy when we need it. Which is when it usually, by the way, when the sun doesn't shine and at night when we're in our homes and we need heating of the light. We need to have a variety of different things. Let's put billions into trying to develop that battery storage. But until then, you're basically saying we need to cut demand. So insulate homes. Yeah, absolutely. But, don't know if you've tried to get a builder lately. I'm not quite sure how many builders you think we've got to insulate every home immediately. The reality is what you're talking about is people rationing the amount of heating and energy they have in their homes, aren't you?
No, I'm sorry. That's absolutely
That
nonsense.
is what you're talking about.
It is nonsense. There is more energy falling per square metre on the Earth's surface than we can ever possibly use in the form of wind, solar and tidal.
Yes,
we have the ability to harness it. We have the technology.
But we don't have the ability
jobs. We want millions of jobs, and there are millions of jobs in the renewable sector and retrofitting thermal insulation into housing stock, and we don't do it.
Right, yes. But the point is, we've just discussed the issue that we can have as much energy from the sun on a lovely sunny day, but when the sun doesn't shine or the wind doesn't blow, we don't get that. And even if we do have a good sunny day or a windy day, we don't have the ability right now, and won't for probably at least a decade, the ability to store that. So what you're saying in the meantime, Pete, is that we reduce the amount of energy we use. That's what you think. We should turn the thermostat down, turn the heating off, put a woolly jumper on, and use less energy. That is what you're saying, isn't it?
No, that's typical sort of rude way of
Not being rude
dismissing
at all, Pete.
Well, I think you're being very dismissive of the argument that's supported by people across the globe.
I can be dismissive of anything. You're being dismissive of my argument. We're having a debate. I'm asking you a question. Are you saying that part of your policy... You said we shouldn't be tackling supply only. We need to cut demand. Cutting demand won't just be coming from cutting insulation. I'm asking you a question. Should people cut down on how much electricity and gas they use?
Well, of course we should make changes in the home to reduce as much electricity.
What do you mean? Okay, other than insulation, what changes do you mean? Answer the question.
I don't like to be browbeaten, thank you, Julia.
Well, answer the question then.
There's no need for it. There's no need for it.
Answer the question then. I'm not browbeating you. I've asked you the question 4 times.
Well, if you just give me a second to answer it, I'll tell you. We have a situation here where we're trying to energise this country with nuclear power in the foreseeable future. I'm saying that nuclear power is an option, but it's not necessarily an imperative.
Are you going to answer the question?
There are other ways of doing it. There are other ways of doing it.
Pete, I'm not browbeating you. If it was the Prime Minister, I'd ask the same question again and again. You said we need to cut demand. Does cutting demand for energy include people turning down their heating, turning off their heating, turning off the lights, using less energy? Yes or no?
It may do.
It may do,
but what it involves more than anything else is making sure we're efficient in the way we generate and transmit electricity, which we're not at the moment. We're profligate with
but that's supply. That's you going back to talking about supply. You said we need to cut demand.
Yeah, well, you can cut demand in many, many ways. You can be far more efficient in the way you do things. You can use technologies which have 80% efficiency rather than 30% efficiency of conversion from the raw material into usable
again, we're talking about efficient supply. You're still saying, fundamentally, we're not going to develop... If we don't develop battery power soon enough, we don't frack, we don't have nuclear power stations, basically, we should all probably just be cold in our homes for the next decade until things get better?
That's right.
I'm asking you, is that what you're saying?
No, of course it's not. I'm saying that we can make far more efficient cuts in the way we generate electricity in the first place and become far more efficient. We can decentralise our power grids at the moment because we should be moving towards smart grids. The power grid that we have at the moment is highly inefficient, and it's inefficient in the way we generate it, transmit it, and use it. We can become far more efficient. There is a 30% efficiency gain that we could make in our electricity.
I'm sure we could absolutely begin. But again, that's about supply, not about demand. Right, you're the one who raised demand. I'm going to have to leave it there because we're way over time. Pete Wilkinson is chair of the Together Against Sizewell C campaign.
Good talk.
Hot talk. Bold talk. Talk radio.
Listen on your smart speaker.
Watch it live on your smart TV.
The world headquarters of common sense.
Talk radio.